The opinions and views expressed by individuals during this podcast are their own. They may not be the opinions of this network, their groups, or other organizations they may be involved with.
It's all going to pot, whether we like it or not. Best I can tell, the world's gone to hell, and I'm sure gonna miss it a lot. All the whiskey in Lynchburg, Tennessee, just couldn't fill that spot. I got $100 bill, man, you can keep your pills, man. It's all going to pot. It's all going to pot, whether we like it or not. Best I can tell, the world's gone to hell, and we're sure gonna miss it a lot. All the whiskey in Lynchburg, Tennessee, just couldn't fill the spot. I got $100 bill, man, you can keep your pills, man. It's all going to pot. I got $100 bill, man, you can keep your pills, man. It's all going to pot.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Peace, News, and Views here on the NOK Network. We are patients everywhere advocating cannabis evolution with me, Kim Cooper, my awesome joint host, Siir SteveO in the house. How's it going, dude?
Going pretty good. Been an interesting week this week. By the way, with I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, we introduced and interviewed the inventor of the noser, and I want to let you know that there will be some select giveaways only on the NOK network here coming up soon, to where you can try out the noser as well.
You're getting a shipment of nosers.
Yeah, just for the NOK watchers, and more than likely we'll see those on the IWK daily 710 daily sessions.
Oh, fucking cool. They are great people, right? Like, we had such a fun time with them when they were on. For anybody that missed it, the noser fits on a dab pen or a vape pen, like just a regular vape pen that does the carts. And this little apparatus fits on top, just like that. And Perfect. Now you have a nozzle for each nostril, and you do nose dabs.
Couldn't have said it better myself. That's exactly right.
You know, the throat. And tonight's guest may be interested in this apparatus, because I mean, noser people are so fantastic, and it's NOZZER on Instagram. Go and check them out. Great little invention by some Ontario peeps here in Canada. And, she explained a lot of that stuff to us, and it's relevant to tonight's show. So we have our guest tonight on, and he's a very good friend, near and dear to my heart. I've known him for many, many years in the cannabis community here in Canada. And, he's suffering from esophageal issues right now that he will discuss while we're interviewing him. But anybody with throat, lung problems, can be benefited with a noser.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And, I think that it's a different delivery system, since it's actually the olfactory sensors in the nose that's going to get the punch. So, it could be perfect for a lot of people.
It could be. Without any further ado, I ain't wasting no time tonight, because I'm fucking excited for tonight's guest. It's been a long time since I interviewed this guy, because he's so bloody busy. I mean, this guy is all over the map. He's helping people everywhere. He's expanding patient services, low barrier access, and equal rights to medicine, which is what this cannabis plant is. 100%. It is medicine. This guy has worked tirelessly for several decades, and I can't wait for y'all to meet him tonight. Go ahead, SteveO.
Absolutely. Joining us on Peace News and Views tonight is Neil Magnuson. Please join me in welcoming Neil to the show. Welcome, Neil.
Hey, how are y'all doing?
Hey, how's it going?
Glad to have you.
Hey, the nose knows, eh?
The nose knows. That's right.
Yeah.
I got a Gibby creation glassworks, Gibson Glassworks. It's a mustache toker, and I've been toking it through the nose as well because I guess the cat's out of the bag. I got this thing growing in my esophagus, and so now I sleep a lot of the time. I'm not quite as active as I always was. Although the time that I'm awake, I'm pretty good. I got pretty good energy, and I get a bunch of stuff done. And we're working hard on our mission. And I think we're going to have a great year in getting the courts to demand the government to provide low barrier access to the people that need low barrier access to cannabis. The idea of having only cannabis legalization for the rich, by the rich, it just throws under the bus all the people that really need it the most, the people that we fought for all these years, the medical patients that need good quality cannabis, and they need to get it in ways that work for them, either at low cost or no cost, and they need to have all the different ranges of options to be able to use cannabis and all the different potencies that should be available to them. And to not have that is literally killing people, especially with this public health emergency of overdose and death, because cannabis in the form of high dose edibles, or certainly higher dose than what the government sells, is the real ticket for most people to be able to get through that horrible period of withdrawal and get on the other side of using those drugs. The dependency on the opioids and the street drugs are driven by underlying health issues, but the real serious barrier to getting off of that particular protocol is that period of withdrawal where the body reacts violently to having that substance removed. And edibles helps people. We have hundreds of people here that we've helped escape from addiction because of that. And the government wants no part of it. The media wants no part of it. Just the people want it and aren't being allowed to access it. So there's my opening spiel for you.
That's so Neil Magnuson all the way, 100%. I fucking love it. You're right out of the gate, bang! There you go. That is classic Neil. I love it, Neil. You've been a strong voice in the cannabis community here in Canada for several decades. You've been immersed in the scene there in BC and across Canada as a nation. Spreading the information as a patient, right from 420 events where, you're assaulted by police officers. And then
2015, that was a cannabis day.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
no.
Cannabis days. Getting assaulted by police officers and everything else. You've been involved in the Vancouver 420 event for many, many years.
20 years or more.
Yeah.
25, actually. 25 years, really.
Yeah. It's several decades you've been doing this shit.
A
Cannabis
few.
Substitution Program, from storefront to van to street corner to van, and then back to street corner and then back to van.
And hopefully back to storefront.
And now back to storefront.
Not now, but hopefully. That's the goal. That's the goal, is to have a low barrier access community cannabis store that people can walk into without all the barriers that the government's put up for what they've got to offer people.
Yeah, 100%. You've been at the forefront of this fight, fighting for patients' rights, fighting for low barrier access. And, not this whole corporate model that they released. I think back to pre-legalization when we were all, going to these town halls and talking to the people that were doing the tour across Canada. They were talking to all the citizens. What do you think about legalization? How do you see it? And we were very skeptical. And we went to those town halls and we had our say. Everybody pretty much in the cannabis community attended at least one and spoke up. We were very surprised when that report came out and it outlined basically our feelings. We were kind of happy. We thought, yeah, that'd be all right. Why don't we do that? And then legalization came and they gave us what we have today, which doesn't even look anything like what that.
Well, it looks like the mirror opposite is what it is.
Yeah.
It looks like they went around and gleaned from us exactly what our vision for legalization was. And then they did the opposite because they didn't want to legalize. And it wasn't about anything to do with our values. Legalization was all a political and a financial move for them. They could take over this vibrant industry where the product is so valuable that people are willing to pay like thousands of dollars for a simple pound of some plant matter, and they could cash in on that. And this 100-year-long war against us that the government has waged on behalf of these corporations and their competitive products has resulted in a huge mechanism of prohibition apparatus that is funded by taxpayers and making huge amounts of dollars on its own. And so they didn't want to shut that down. Those were the stakeholders, you know, in the whole legalization conversation. And they didn't want to lose all of their money coming in. So they crafted a form of legalization where they take over the industry. They maintain prohibition style pricing, and they have it full of restrictions that mean that anybody that's operating outside of their cartel, it's really no other way to describe it, that they're still full-on criminals in under Canadian law, and the government's coming at them with even more force than they did for the first 100 years, with more money for enforcement, increased penalties for daring to grow more than 4 plants and sell them to somebody. Yeah. God forbid you sell anything, without the government getting their cut. It's just such a protection racket. It is such a big gang takeover. It's so obvious. I always thought we lived in at least a country where the government couldn't get away with stuff like what they've been getting away with. But back to from the truckers to the forced vaccinations to what they've done to the cannabis community, to what they've done to the indigenous communities. We live in an extremely corrupt country here. They get to do whatever the hell they want. And if we decide to say something, well, we're terrorists instead of protesters now.
Yeah.
So, things have gotten actually worse, I think, under the Cannabis Act. And certainly if they manage to establish it and make it like the way that it's going to be, like nobody's going to fight against it because whatever, you got a store you can walk in. It might cost you $15 for a decent gram, but at least you're not going to get arrested. And so, okay, people allow for that and settle for that. They don't understand all those people that don't have the option of walking into that store, or all those people that aren't going to be allowed to access those stores because they're marginalized, they're poor, they don't have ID, they don't have a bank account, or all these other barriers that they put up there. So, we can't settle for this. That we need to make sure that those people that we were fighting for all these years, I didn't spend 25 years putting my heart and soul into trying to change these laws to get what we've got right now. This is a horrible way to settle if we settle for this. It's just a big gang that came in and took over all the sales and production, and with taxpayer money that the mainstream doesn't even get it, that the government spends enormous amounts of the money that they're earning with their hard labor, and they're spending it to make sure that their licensed people, it's a pay-to-play system, that they're the ones that get their asses protected. Boy, what other business gets that? Wouldn't every other business love to have the government run a little protection racket for them and take out the competition? Everybody's got to have a piece of paper or a number and pay fees. Oh, man. So I don't know how they get away with this. I really hope they don't. I'm getting dialed in here. I'm a little bit focused, as you say. I jump right in because I got court coming up. Preliminary hearing, it's a spot in the road where we have to stop and do some things and see what that results in before we get to the actual charter challenge that'll be in the end of July. But 26th, 27th, 28th of this month, we're in court for, the Crown gets to show their case, see if they can prove that I'm selling cannabis without a license. Boy, that should be hard, We're...
Oh, wow.
Our case is they're criminally negligent for not supplying us with a license. We did everything we could. Did it the right way so that, there was no licenses to apply for 7 years ago when I started the CSP. But I went to city council and I showed them and told them all about it. I held up a bag of edibles and I said, this is the real safe supply for people. This is what will replace the use of those drugs that they're risking their lives with, and it'll get off those drugs. They didn't want to talk about it. They were all dialed into their own little project and agenda that was going on a much larger scale about this legalization that was going to be brought in, that was going to protect the interests of the big boys. And you watch as all the smaller operations that have licenses to produce cannabis get bought up by the big boys, because they can really make money on this, and the little ones are having a hard time, because that's exactly how they structured it, is to do all of this. And to keep that prohibition apparatus working, all part of it. They're brilliant. They're brilliant. And they've divided our community as well. You know, I mean,
did they ever?
Did they ever?
Right in half.
They divided the activists right in half. I mean, half of the growers and half of the activists, they decide, well, you know, it's legalization, and, you know, for whatever reason, I don't blame them. Whatever, they're operating with their own information and doing what's right for them and their families. You got to do what you got to do. They're good people in many cases, and maybe they will be able to do something from the inside to change things towards low barrier access. But, you know, the rest of us, we're boycotting those stores. We're trying to educate people about the potentials of the government to, you know, GMO and chemicalized weed, and they're doing to the weed exactly what they did to cigarettes. Yeah. And so, you know, they're so concerned about the quality of the cannabis, you would think. I mean, that seems to be, you know, what it's all about is, you know, they don't want people to have to use unregulated cannabis, like as if the unregulated cannabis is dangerous or something. Well, dangerous cannabis was never a thing. No. You know, I mean, there's people that have really bad.
When the government sprayed paraquat on it on purpose, right, and then fed it to us, that's when it was a dangerous.
Yeah, it became somewhat dangerous, you know, if you get it through the government once they legalized. But even then, it's hard to hurt people really with cannabis. But you know, it's not about whether or not the unregulated cannabis is safe for Canadians. What a bogus line that is. Unregulated cannabis simply is code for you didn't give the cartel their cut. That's it. You know, it's got to go through their channels, so all their people get their cut all along the way. And if you don't do that, well, they're coming after you, and they're gonna do whatever it takes. They got unlimited resources, really, lots of tax dollars available to them, and they're using them against us. Yeah. So this war is far from over, and we shouldn't all be complacent. But they not only divided the activists in half, but they took away so many of the mainstream people, you know, that think we got legalization, we're all good now, the activists won, you know, but we didn't win. And because we don't have a big platform to get our voices heard, and the media won't cover it like they should, because they're in bed with all this, they're owned by the same big boys that want to control cannabis. So can't trust the mainstream media, got to turn into shows like yourself to find out the real truth about what's going on, to listen to the people that are there, because the people on the front lines like us aren't being reported about at all. And it's all on purpose for a whole variety of reasons, but it all breaks down to money and control. So, you know, the fight is still on. And, you know, I am an advocate for patients' rights, but really what I'm an advocate for is freedom. And that's always been my core issue. People deserve and need to be free.
Yeah,
it's
we've
about
always
freedom.
been aligned on that. It's always been about freedom of fucking choice.
Yes, all of it. You know, when you're not free, people, you think kids are bad because they don't want to be confined, and they're always looking for a way out. But when you get to be an adolescent and then an adult, you really don't like being bullied, you know? And if you don't think you're free, well, you know, you're going to do all sorts of different things that you wouldn't otherwise be doing, like living a peaceful, wonderful life in tune with nature and in your environment and your wife and kids. You know, you're aggravated, you're obsessed, you got to do something about this. And so they've quietly kidnapped everybody. You know, we just don't quite get it, that we are not citizens, we are subjects. We're subjects of these financially elite powers that have ruled the world for so long, and they still are. And they're raping us every day. We're slaves to their system and their taxes and their fees and all the rest of it. And they've got us all. It's like, you know, you throw a frog into tepid water, he's going to sit there and have a good time. Throw him into boiling water, he's going to jump right out, right? Well, they threw us into tepid water a long time ago with this illusion of democracy and freedom, and they've been turning up the heat all along, a little bit, taking away more and more rights, and man, the waters of freedom are boiling all around us, and we don't understand it. We think it's okay. We think it's the way it should be. It's because it's always been. We're all born into this. We got presidents. We got prime ministers. We got these people that are in charge, and they're large. No, they're public servants. They should be humble. They should be protecting us, every one of us individuals, to be an individual, to leave us alone and stop the bullying against us. And that's their job. If we as a society need to have an organized group to protect us, well, that's who that's supposed to be, is our public servants. God, we pay them, so they should be working for us, but they're clearly not working for us.
Absolutely. And it's funny how it's backwards, right? And people can't seem to wrap their head around that. I mean, and they've done a fantastic job of brainwashing the general public into
100%
these fallacies, like we hold these politicians up on these fucking pedestals, like there's some kind of like special peoples or something. Right. Like,
have you seen who's running for the presidency of the United States?
Yeah. And I mean, it's like, dude, you fucking work for me.
Those two guys, I mean, that's the best we got is those two guys, and they're going to fight for people's freedom? Excuse me. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Never apologize for what you got to do, man. You got to do what you got to do.
So anyway,
from this esophageal issue that he's got.
I know you want to talk about that, and and
every once in a while. I know you don't want to dive into it, but
no, it's okay. It's okay. I didn't know that was something that you wanted to talk about, but I get that, and and it is probably important to talk about it because of what's going on with all that too. So here's my journey a little bit in that sense. I'll get back to the cannabis stuff in a couple minutes, but I will explain why I'm having a little bit of trouble talking and it. So it's been going on for about 3 years, but I didn't know what it was until a little over a year ago when I got a diagnosis, and I was not horrified, but I was shocked because I'd never considered that. For a couple of years, I'd had a little tiny nagging something in my throat that was catching on food and stuff, and I looked it up to see, and all I got was diverticulosis, the possibility of a little sac forming in your food tube there. And so that's what I thought was going on, and it wasn't a problem. It wasn't terribly uncomfortable. I noticed it, right? And then I got COVID 2 years ago, this coming July, for 4 or 5 days of not very nice feelings. And at the end of that, now I'm really getting the food stuck in my throat. Like every time I eat something, it just gets stuck there. And I can force it down with the next thing that I eat. So that apparatus in my throat is working enough to get that piece down once I get swallowing something else, but not fluid. Liquid won't move it. And so it's a problem now, and it's aggravating me. So I go to see, I was seeing naturopaths. They said you should go see a doctor. So I went to see the doctor, and it took months for him to get me to be qualified, or to get them to agree to give me the barium swallow thing where you can make a 3D X-ray image of the motions of your throat and stuff. And so, and I'd been arguing with this doctor. I'm not impressed with him at all. And, it took so long to get that going on there. And I was phoning his office saying, look, man, this is sick. Because he didn't believe me. He thought that I had something called dysphagia, where I just thought there was something going on in my throat. And I said, no, this is real. This is food. It's sticking there. And there's something going on. And thinking all the time is just this diverticulosis. So the technician showed me the 3D X-ray. And you can see there's an obstruction there. And I'm such an idiot, I went, oh, there you go, doctor, take that. There is something there. And then the next day I'm having a scan done, and then the next day I'm sitting across from an oncologist. No, I'm having a gastroenterologist go down my throat with a camera, and I'm thinking, this is all good. He's going to recognize what's going on. There's going to be a way to fix that somehow without too much issue, and that's what I believed. And then, so I wake up from the anesthetic, and this guy in a white coat is standing there, and he just looks at me and says, it's cancer. Like, matter of factly, like I should have known it was. And I thought, oh, I was half asleep, right? So he mumbled a bunch of stuff, and I'm now driving away and, rolling around in my brain what he said there. And there was something about radiation and chemo and surgery and stuff like that. So the next day I'm sitting across from an oncologist, and she's telling me that, this is a serious aggressive tumor, and, they got to get on it right away. And that, They're going to schedule me in for 5 weeks of chemo intravenously and radiation, where they make a cast of my chest and strap me down and shoot my tumor with a laser. And I looked into the side effects of that, and the surgery, they're going to take away my voice. I don't use it all that often, but it is something that I value. But it's in behind my voice box. So they were like, we're going to go in, 6 or 7 weeks from now, we'll be cutting out your voice box. Live with that. So I went away and I thought about it, and I came back to her and I said, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. I come from a community where we believe there's other ways to deal with these things. And I really seriously believe there are other ways to deal with it than what you people propose. The side effects of the radiation are just brutal, including inoperable cancers that it can cause in people. And I know people that have gone through it, and some of them do all right and some of them don't, and they're not even here anymore. And so I said, I need some time. I need 6 months to follow some of the cannabis protocols, and not just cannabis protocols, but other ways that people deal with cancers.
All kinds of modalities out there.
All kinds of them,
Yeah.
And so what I did was I layered those modalities as I consulted with many of my brilliant friends. I'm surrounded by such impressive, people here from all walks of life. And so that kicked in real quick, that I was getting a lot of really good advice on things. And I started doing a bunch of things, and some things happened, and 6 months went by, and then I got my next set of scans, and she said, there's zero increase. It's the same as what it was when you walked in here 6 months ago. And I said, well, that's good. At least I'm holding it at bay. And I said, I'm purposely not doing a whole bunch of things that I still can do, because I wanted to see what I'm doing would work. And I'm super high vitamin C regimen with calcium ascorbate. I've got a dozen or more natural health food products, mushroom concoctions and things that most of them available in your health food stores. Some of them put together. One of my staff is got her master's in herbalism.
Nice.
And so, and a whole bunch of things, protein powders and things. So since July coming up, I hadn't eaten any solid food. I couldn't. It wouldn't go down at all. I could still drink. And so I with the magic bullet large blender there, I'm blending up steak and mushrooms and roast beef and stuff like that, and drinking that kind of stuff. But then I get this diagnosis, of cancer. And so Jack Kungle, I'm sure you know Jack.
Oh yeah.
Jack's a friend of mine, and I've listened to what he has to say about some things, and he says no meat.
No meat. Yeah, he's a strong advocate for a vegan diet.
Yep.
Yeah.
Strong advocate for a vegan diet. Yeah.
And I also a member of my staff, Brix Carlisle. He's the longest living chemotherapy patient in Canada. He's outlived all of their predictions for a long, long time, and he's healthy as can be. And he's on a completely vegetarian or vegan. I'm not sure if it's vegan, but it's probably vegetarian. But anyway, he advocates for no meat as well. So I stopped doing the steak and mushroom smoothies, and I already stopped eating sugar because of, this thing has been going on with me for a couple of years, and I was getting migraine headaches, and I didn't like that very much. And my ex-wife suggested maybe it was the chocolate that I was eating at night, which I had evolved as a comfort food from when her and I broke up 20 some years ago. And I just put myself to sleep at night with handfuls of chocolate for the most part, and then wake up in the morning and my head doesn't feel very good. And so immediately, chocolate has caffeine, and it's not like I was buying expensive chocolate or anything. In fact, I'm a frugal person. I was buying a cheap chocolate. So I stopped and
corn syrup.
Yeah, I know. And I have actually got some chocolates that, I don't eat very much, but I have a little bit here that are healthy, along those lines. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so I stopped immediately when she told me that, when I looked that up. And then the next day I'm standing in the candy aisle. I'm wondering what I'm going to replace the chocolate with. Well, I replaced the candy with the chocolate, because the candy's not good for you and all that. And I'm older now and my body needs healthy stuff. Yeah. So I was like, no, I'm not going there. I'm not eating none of this stuff anymore. So I had already a year plus before my diagnosis of cancer had stopped eating all sugar products, all processed food products, all meat because of Jack. And then I start making these amazing smoothies, and I'm putting all this incredible stuff in there. And so 6 months later,
for his smoothies?
Do I have a recipe?
Jack's recipe. He's got one on his website.
Oh, does he?
That he drinks every day as well too, and he recommends.
I'll have a look at it and see. But recently I went to see about a vitamin drip, and certainly all the things that they put into that vitamin drip are things that are in my smoothie, with the exception being that they say that the high potency vitamin C that I'm consuming, about 10, 15 times the recommended daily dosage, and it's calcium ascorbate, which is unlike most other vitamin C's in the marketplace, your body can absorb most of it.
Right.
But what they told me there, the doctor there told me that the when you take it orally, it ends up in your stomach, and that's why you get what is the one side effect of doing that, which is diarrhea. Which is, you know, I've learned how to manage that. I'm not wearing diapers or anything. It's you know.
No. So
I'm not there yet, you know.
Yeah.
So
you can't digest vitamin calcium sorbate, the high dose of vitamin C. It doesn't sit well in the stomach. It's supposed to come in from exterior forces in your body.
So that's why the vitamin C drip is way better. But the place that I went to was high end in West Vancouver here, and man, they charge you so much. You end up with only one arm and one leg when you walk out of there, and but your body's full of whatever vitamins, these really colorful bags of vitamins that they put into you. So I just went back to my naturopath, and it's much more reasonable there. And on Friday, I'm going to get my first vitamin C intravenous.
Good.
And so that's good too. And all of it, I'm sure, is doing well. But it's a process and it takes time, that's for sure. So now, 3 months later, almost 4 months later, I had my next set of scans. She said I looked great when I walked in there, and there was a fellow there that had gone through their protocols, and he wasn't looking or feeling great at all. Poor guy. And I'm feeling fine. You know, I just need to sleep a fair bit. I need to have a nap in the afternoon. And I always was a pretty good sleeper at night anyway, but I get 10 hours now, and then I need another couple in the afternoon usually. So my body needs to heal, and it needs some time to let that happen where I'm not up and active, because I'm active when I'm up. And so here's the next set of scans 4 months later, 0 increase again. But no increase is not good enough. I need to get this thing out of me.
Yeah.
And it needs to go away. Yeah. So it came to a point after those scans a month or so ago, it got really bad where I could hardly swallow anything. I'd only been able to swallow liquid anyway. And the thicker liquids like the Boost, because I'm also taking a fair bit of Boost, that doesn't go down all that easy anyway. Well, it got to where nothing was really going down. I could get some water down. And I went a few days like that. And I'd already lost a whole bunch of weight. I'm down about 35 pounds from what I was a year ago now. And so I got really dehydrated and stuff. And I was going to the hospital. You know, they could put in a feeding tube apparently. And I don't know where it goes from there. But in any case, I'd been drinking a fair bit of water because water is important to keep really well hydrated during all this. And I have water that starts out 9.5 pH. Just by the graces of the universe, I ended up with a mountain of these boxes full of this particular water because a company rebranded, and they said they were free. So I rented a truck and I got a mountain of them. And so it turns out that's exactly what you need, except that I'd been putting lemon juice into the water. And I believed that the lemon juice was the equivalent to baking soda. That's the big mistake. Pay attention to this, because it's not. They're on opposite ends of the pH spectrum. The body runs at about 7.4, and you can't move it more than a half a point either side of that, or you're dead. And your liver won't allow you to if you got a healthy liver anyway, much as you might want to even try, but you shouldn't really try. But baking soda is a 9.5 up there. It's way up there. And lemon juice is 3. So putting the lemon into my water and consuming lots of it was causing a pursing of what was going on in here. And it had a lot to do with me not being able to drink, properly. And so I immediately dumped that water out, added a small amount. Got to be careful with baking soda too. You can OD on it, but not fatally, easily. But still, it's not fun to OD on baking soda either. You get whole body vibrates. That's from years ago, a previous experience.
Yeah.
But so I started that, and pretty much I could drink again for a little bit, and then within a 3-week period, it happened to me 3 times. So the third time, this was it. I was going to get up. I was going to the hospital, but I just took the juice, the smoothie that I had there, and I forced it. I don't know what I did. I sat on the edge of the bed, and I just moved those muscles inside my throat until I could figure out, what was making it work and what was blocking it. And I made it go down. And that's over a month ago now. And it has steadily gotten better and better and better over this last month. I can drink pretty much anything. I can guzzle down vegetable juice. I did try taking a couple bites of some stuff, and probably wasn't the best thing to start with, but I made them go down. But I'm still not able to eat solid food properly. And I'm going to get now trying to do a little more of that. But so, yeah, that's what's going on. I'm really upset. And I guess this is why I wanted to bring this up, is that the Cancer Institute in British Columbia here does not support in any way anything but their treatments.
Yep.
If you're not going to go through their burn, poison, and cut routine, then you are refusing treatment, and they treat you like you're a second-class person that's dumb. And it's a high-pressure sales environment to get people to do that right away. And I mean, I thought, well, sure, that's all they know. That's what they're invested in. That's what all their equipment's for. That's what all their training's about. So I can see that. And then I thought, and if they did, say, yeah, but there's these other things you might want to try. Well, who's going to go through the poison, burn, and cut routine if you got some other, maybe still a battle, but a less, invasive process.
Yeah.
So, I can see that a little bit. But then I find out that, those chemo drugs, they're worth a lot of money.
Yeah, they are.
They're worth a hell of a lot of money. One patient on a regimen of chemo on average uses somewhere around $100,000 worth of that stuff.
Yeah.
So turns out in the States, according to the research that a good friend of mine just did, and in fact, it's been reported on many of the main news networks in the United States, it's the one area of medicine where the doctors are allowed to get like a kickback.
Yep.
And they take basically 6% of what they sell to people. They're just salespeople selling an expensive protocol. Here in Canada, it's all paid for by tax dollars.
Yeah.
And there's a less obvious structure to how they're being rewarded. But they get to be on these advisory boards where they don't have to show up, and they get large paychecks for being part of that advisory board for prescribing this poison to people. Yeah. So
oncology is the one area in the medical profession that doctors can receive special treatment. They can extra bill. They can get kickbacks from companies. All of it that we know goes down in the medical profession with pay to play and, these prescription pushers that go to the doctor's offices and give them trips to the Bahamas and all this fucking shit with conferences and all that backdoor under the table bullshit. That can be above board and on the table. Here's the motherfucking cash if you're in oncology.
I had no idea that was something that was going
oncology.
on.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
It was news. It's why it was on some of the news networks, because it's news. This is a big deal here. This is a super conflict of interest for sure.
Always been that way in oncology.
Yeah.
My mom died of cancer. She was 50 years old. I mean, she's been gone for 28 years. And it was a racket then. It's been a racket since day fucking one, and nobody talks about
they got the funds, eh? Yeah. They got the funds. You know how much money is raised by people that leave their estates to the research in cancer, cures? Yeah. I mean, holy smokes, this is the thing that
a racket.
So much money involved. Yeah. And what really pisses me off is that this is not Dave's Cancer Center.
No.
This is the BC
Society.
This is the BC Cancer Center. This is about British Columbians. Well, there's a lot of British Columbians like me that aren't really sure we want to go through that sort of a thing with ourselves,
Yeah.
And we deserve to be supported in some other options because, like you said, there's a whole bunch of other modalities that are successful with people.
Yeah.
So,
Paul Stamets, I mean, he treated his mother with fucking turkey tail.
I got that going on too.
You know? I mean, fuck.
Yeah. Natural
cancer
remedy.
with fucking turkey tail.
And a bunch of other things too, Kim. There's a bunch of other things.
Oh, there's fucking tons out there. I mean, throw
one of the most
there.
important.
You got cancer. You throw everything at that bitch, including the fucking kitchen sink. You take it all.
Oh yeah. Hell yeah. It's all out war. It's do or die.
Yeah.
All right. You got to take it seriously, and you got to be a disciplined person for sure. And now I forgot what I was going to say before that. But
got excited.
I'm always excited. Life is exciting for sure. And I know what I was going to say. I was going to say that probably one of the most important things, if you're dealing with something like that, is your mental state of mind. Yeah. You defeat yourself, you are defeated. You decide to give up, you're going to die. That's it. You're going to die. That's it. It's so much about the mind. You only need to look as close at placebos or nocebos and how that all works and why that is such a thing. It's such a thing because we are spiritual mental creatures that are occupying this physical body and being, and we have so much control over it that we have no idea about and very little idea about how to control all of that. So what we do know is that a lot of what we visualize, we experience, whether it happens or not, and the experiences that are negative and harmful shorten our lives and make them less enjoyable. And the ones that give us joy and happiness and make us feel optimistic and hopeful, they all increase our life and increase how wonderful our lives are. So you don't die of cancer. You live with cancer for a while, and if you're smart, you're able to probably defeat it. So, that's one of the bigger things. So, I didn't say anything for a long time on the show because
you kept it quiet.
I tried to hide it. It was getting harder and harder. I've actually done pretty good in this interview, but I really have a lot of trouble continuing to talk without having to bend over and let some stuff out and other things. But it got to the point where I don't want to lie to anybody. I didn't want to really say anything, but it was mostly selfish reasons. Really, I should be more public, I think, to help people understand what I'm learning and understanding as I go here. But I don't want a whole bunch of people feeling sorry for me. I don't need that at all. It's not even right. I don't need a whole bunch of people with a whole bunch of different advice because I already got a whole bunch of different advice. I do appreciate people that care and whatever, but I don't need it and want any of that. And I got a lot of stuff going on, and I have to sleep, during every afternoon, and I don't want my phone going off all the time and what have you. I'm here for a while. I'm not keeling over anytime soon. If I end up in a hospital bed somewhere, hooked up to a feeding tube one day and that's that, I'll be writing my memoirs. I'll be bothering people on the phone all day long.
Right.
I'll still be writing letters to people. So, like I say, not dropping dead anytime soon, except that anybody could drop dead at any moment from anything.
Right. Walk out the door and get fucking hit by a goddamn truck any
day. Yeah, and who knows? A little rock coming from the sky or from an airplane or outer space. Who knows? So cherish every moment, My mantra for a long time has been have as much fun as you can. And I've been saying that for years. Never more important for me than it is since that doctor said that to me that day. Have as much fun as you can. Life is short for everybody. This is serious stuff here. We only get a little blip and we're gone. It's really too bad. But, it is what it is. So just, try to spend those moments. You're only in the moment at the present. You're not in the past unless you want to start thinking about it in the present. Now you're kind of there, but you're not. And you're not in the future yet. You can imagine whatever the hell you want for the future, good or bad. But where you are really is right here in this moment.
That's right.
And whatever you're doing in this moment, look at it from the bright side. Look at it from the positive side. What can you gain? Where is the lesson? Even the horrible things in life lots of lessons in all of that. And some of our most important lessons are during the times when we're going through the toughest times. And those lessons can protect us from even much more potentially horrible things down the road if we don't learn them when they happen. So embrace everything as being a gift from the universe. The life itself is so amazing. We don't even know if there's anything else like us in the entire universe, although you'd think there should be. But the conditions are very, very difficult to be where we are here. It's taken billions of years of life getting to the point where we can talk. You know, I'm sure the whales talk. I'm sure the dolphins talk. Maybe the elephants too, and the chimpanzees. But they're not talking about the stars very much. They're not building equipment to see what those things are all about. They're not trying to figure out what makes up all of these things and where it all came from and all the rest of that. We are very unique creatures. So we should embrace our uniqueness and our how amazing we are, I think. If we find life out there, it's probably going to be in the form of microbes or maybe well-evolved ecosystems that are just stuck underneath ice on their planets or on planets where, you know, they're just animals. We had just animals on this planet for billions of years that were all highly tuned to their environment, but none of them were talking about the stars and thinking about driving cars or anything like that. So we are amazing. Holy smokes. Enjoy every moment of being a human being and make the best of it, no matter what you got going on, is my advice. So now we're way off topic.
Hang on. I'm going to interrupt you. 1 second. 1 second. I'm going to cut you off right there.
It's your show. You take all the time you want.
You talk all fucking night, but unfortunately, I do have a show to run. I'm going to cut you off for 1 second, and I'm going to make an announcement that we have reached the portion of the show that we like to call medication time.
That's right. It's break time. While we take a few minutes to hear about a few of the other shows here in our lineup at the NOK Network.
Absolutely. We'll be back with more. We're going to talk about CSP. We're going to talk about the court case that he's got going on. And we're going to talk about everything that Neil Magnuson wants to talk about here on Peace News and Views. We'll be back in about 4 minutes and 20 seconds. Stay tuned.
Yeehaw! Knock Network presents Ganja News Update. Join joint host Christine Terra and Michelle Parada as they bring you their global cannabis news update. Catch the Ganja News Reporters Weekly on Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time as they cover cannabis news from around the globe in this 60-minute video news podcast. Stay up to date with Ganja News Update, Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern on Knock Network. Follow and subscribe to Knock Network on our webpage, social media, and streaming sites, including Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble.
Are you a Northern Ontario resident? Searching for credible information on cannabis as a medicine? No Sir is here to help. Established in 2013, Northern Ontario Cannabis Education and Resources is here for you. No Sir Director Kim Cooper brings you 45 plus years experience utilizing cannabis as a medicine and is spreading the education across the North. Activism, resources, referrals, and more at No Sir. Don't be a jackass. Say no sir to cannabis propaganda with No Sir. Find us at www.nocer.ca. Advertising space available at NOK. Contact us for a rate sheet at knocknetwork.com. Send us a message on our social media platforms or email us at info@noknetwork.com.
Open your eyes.
Join us on Psychedelic Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for Open Your Eye. Our 60-minute video podcast with hosts Kim Cooper and Tara Simpson. Joint hosts sit down with patients, facilitators, lawyers, and others in the space to discuss their experiences and endeavors working with psychedelic medicine. Tune in weekly to Open Your Eye at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for all your news and information from the realm of psychedelic medicine here on NOK Network. Follow and subscribe to the NOK Network on our webpage, social media, and streaming sites, including YouTube and Rumble.
Join us for NOK Network monthly specials, 12 months a year. Movie nights. Spotlight on entertainment. And live on location event coverage. Stay up to date about upcoming programming by subscribing to NOK Network on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Rumble. Check out our webpage at www.noknetwork.com.
Now we get back to the regular program. Yeah.
And we are back from our medication session here on Peace News and Views.
We are, and we hope you'll tune into one of many other podcasts that were highlighted during the break, produced and aired here on the NOK Network. I don't want to waste no time. I love this guy.
Yes, exactly. I want to hear everything he has to say. I admire the truth, and I admire the fact that he expresses himself so well. So let's just jump right back in.
Jump right back in. Absolutely. I'm ready for it. Yeah, bring him back. Hey.
No, you guys are way too kind. So, I'll go back to, I think, what you originally wanted to know from me, and that's a bit of the background. And so after 5 or 6 years of helping David Malmo Levine with the pot rallies here in Vancouver, he and I opened what was the Vancouver School of Drug War History and Organic Cultivation. We called it the Herb School in 2004. And I was a carpenter, a restoration guy with a truck full of tools and a building full of materials that I was getting evicted from at the same time as he wanted to put together this place, the Vancouver School of Drug War History and Organic Cultivation. And so he wanted me to be his business partner, mostly for my carpentry skills, because it really needed to be renovated and fixed up. And the long weekend that happened when I used the materials that I had, and my son and David and I renovated that place and started using it, I read The Emperor Wears No Clothes and asked David a ton of questions and things that I hadn't really paid much attention to, even during the 5 years of helping out at the pot rallies. It was mostly about just smoking weed and hanging around with my son and stuff. And so I learned so much that time that, I learned the real truth that I've only done, and everything since then has just reinforced all of these truths about how the reason the cannabis has been prohibited and treated like it's some sort of contagious dynamite is because it's so valuable and it threatens all of these other industries. And so it's a big conspiracy of people either working together or apart from each other, but all on the same goal of putting down this plant for their own personal interests. And that's developed over this course of time to where we're at and where we were back in 2004. So I quit my job that evening, that third evening of the long weekend, first renovation segment of that place. And we operated that for about 3.5 years, providing access to cannabis right at that spot, which happened to be where all the drug users were, the hard drug users at Main and Hastings. Yeah. And what we learned during that time...
You hear in the news, SteveO, whenever you hear about Vancouver overdoses and all of that, and, sort of the Skid Row area, and that's where it is, Main and Hastings.
Exactly, wasting and pain.
Yeah.
So we opened this store there, and for 3.5 years we ran it. And one of our suppliers was Lady Marijuana, who provided us with cakes and brownies. And it was the cakes and brownies that we were being told by the clients there that was helping them get through the night without using the other drugs, and then help them get off those other drugs. So when this particular overdose crisis hit with the fentanyl, I recognized immediately that one of the answers would be to make it as easy as possible for people to get cannabis in the form of edibles, to be able to get through the withdrawal and get off those drugs and replace the use of those drugs.
All those years ago.
So I went to city council. I talked to my friends about it, you know, Dawn and Carol and Dana and a bunch of other friends of mine about it. And I ended up at city council meeting. I had my 3 or 5 minutes, whatever you get there, and I explained it all to them. I held up a bag of edibles, and I said, this is the real safe supply. This is what we need to make easily available to people, as easy as you can, and help them to understand if they start low and they go slow, they can find the right dose and they can get through the withdrawal. And then all those underlying medical and health issues that are the drivers of addiction can also be addressed through the use of cannabis instead of these other toxic drugs. And that's all we got to do. And they wanted no part of it. There was this agenda that was being played out at the time of legalization going on. I mean, this was 7 years ago, so we were still a couple of years away from legalization, but all that was in the works for those couple of years leading up to this legalization that we've got right now. So city council would pay no attention to me after my time was up. If they don't ask you a question, you have to go sit down again.
Go away.
And so I went to the Vancouver Police Department with my lawyer, and we presented it to them similarly, but I wasn't really asking them for anything. I was just telling them, because I was working with VANDU. That's the place that I went to first, the Vancouver Area Network of Drug Users, an advocacy group of peers that's funded by government that is there to protect the interests of these people that are oppressed by the drug war. And so they had already agreed with me that we could have a partnership and we could do this from their particular location. And so we went about and did it. You know, I waited actually a little while, a couple of weeks or more, while a professional lobbyist that was actually my lawyer's dad, who'd been working with City Hall for 30 years, he tried to get them convinced that they should get on board with what we were doing with no success. But once it was, you know, that had expired, I just had a bunch of donations. We needed to give them out to people. People were dying. So I just went to VANDU on a Saturday afternoon and started handing them out. And then
you're trying to do it the right way. You did all the fucking steps, man. You went and spoke to all the right people. You attended the council meeting. You went to the police and went, hey, I got this bag of edibles here. I'm going to give them to the junkies and see if we can get them clean, okay?
Yeah.
You know, and they went, yeah, shoo, fuck off.
No, they were good. The VPD were good. You know, they heard me out, and I also told them they should be investigating the federal government for corruption. And I made a really good case about that as well. And they told me about that one that they only have jurisdiction up to about 7 miles outside of their city limits as a police force, and they have no jurisdiction to investigate the federal government. And that's true for all these police departments. So in any case, with the CSP, they shook my hand. They thanked me for, you know, being concerned about it. The one of the deputy chiefs, Steve Ray, he gave me his personal email, and we've maintained some contact ever since. He's included in the emails that I send out. And so we just started handing them out. So it took me about a week to get enough donations going around to my different dispensary friends to go back there. And so on the next Saturday, there I was handing them out again. It just worked for me to go there on a Saturday afternoon, right afternoon. 4 times in a row I did that, just by fluke. I never told anybody I was coming back when or whatever. I didn't know myself, but it worked out like that. And on that 4th Saturday when I showed up, there was a long lineup of people standing there. And there's a handful of people that come to my vehicle and say, hey, can we help you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I said, man, oh man, you people are standing there waiting for me and for cannabis? And they said, yep. And I said, I guess this is something I got to do every Saturday now. So we did it for a full year. And then after a year, I asked Vandu for more time because the lineup was getting out of hand. It was hundreds of people long. And so Vandu agreed that I wanted 3 days. They only had really time for 2. They're a busy place. But instead of Saturdays, we changed it to Thursdays and Sundays. And it helped a little bit with the lineup, but the lineups were equally as long. And, that line management was probably our biggest issue. But for another 2.5 years, we handed out these high-dose edibles to people.
And you saved
right.
lives.
Well, yeah, people were telling us within a few months that, now they weren't using anything but what we were giving them. Yeah. And so we got all these success stories going on, and people were telling their doctors about it. So 2.5 years after we started that, we got City Council to approve unanimously their support for low barrier access to cannabis to address the opioid crisis. That was huge. And we went and met with City Councilor that put that motion forward, myself and Jody Emery and members of the Green Cross and Vandu, and had an understanding that we'd find a storefront and that if we were meeting the needs, excuse me.
No problem.
Yeah, no problem.
If we were meeting the needs of the neighborhood, then they would support us with a license. So we took us a while, I'll tell you, because we're honest people. And we were telling the landlords, that were available here in the neighborhood where it had to be, that what we were going to do there. And no, we didn't have a license yet and what have you. And so we finally found a fellow that would rent to us, and that's the space we're in right now. And this became a store. And it was a wonderful experience. It was a safe place for people. They could come in and with some dignity, they could, get their needs met. And what we did was we formed a coalition between the CSP and the Healing Wave dispensary. And so the Healing Wave dispensary would sell cannabis products at low barrier and use whatever money was necessary to make sure that the CSP could continue. And they had a part of the store as their space and people working there that were paid by the Healing Wave, but were really volunteers for the Cannabis Substitution Program. And the members could come every 4 days and get 420 milligrams of the edibles that we had. And we had a very large selection. Many different wonderful bakers and donators had been contributing to us and made this all work. And they're the real heroes here. Can't do anything without, people providing you what you need to do stuff with. So we had all that going on. But pretty shortly into being in the store, we had city licensing come and say, oh, you can't be here. You're not on the list. You need to apply to the province for a license before you can be, selling cannabis. So we talked to the councillor about that, and she said, yeah, we're going to have to bow to Health Canada and follow their direction on this. So we applied to Health Canada, an amazing application. We'd been doing it for 3.5 years by that time, and very compelling evidence that what we were doing were saving these people. We put all that to Health Canada and thinking it was bulletproof. They couldn't say no. Excuse me. Oh, darn it. Anyway, we felt they couldn't say no to that because that'd be like saying, oh, yeah, we're okay with, thousands of people dying from the scourge of addiction and a poison street supply of drugs.
Right.
So that wouldn't be politically good for them to say. So we thought we'd proven ourselves by demonstrating all of these times that this is helping people and in serious ways. Everybody on the downtown east side knows, all the harm reduction places here, they know that we are the best harm reduction option that there is. And so we had to leave the store. I mean, city licensing and right away threatened myself and the landlord. Landlord's lawyer, they're all hip to cannabis issues here in Vancouver. And so, you can lose your property. You can get, pretty hefty fines levied against you. And so the landlord had to try to evict us, although he didn't try very hard. But I think the judge was corrupt in all of this. And in any case, we were evicted and given 7 days to get out of the store. Well, by that time, we'd been operating for 5 months. And we had all these people that, were now relying on us. And what are we going to do? Well, I bought an RV. I bought an old 1984 RV. And we never missed a day. You know, from the day that was the last day in the store was our first day in the RV. And that was 3 years and 4 months ago.
And you just parked the RV in front of the store and said, hey, we're over here.
Yeah.
Oh, that's it. Yes. Now that's what I'm talking about, being smarter than the average bear right there.
So we're doing the same thing in the RV that we would be doing in the store, with some handcuffs for sure involved, and that came later.
But the landlord's not going to lose his spot. It's not his.
He was good. You know, he would continue to rent to us, but we couldn't sell cannabis from here.
So from the RV in front of the store.
Yeah, and you know, all of us, including him, believing that we were going to get licenses really quickly, that this was a short-term thing going on. It wasn't going to last very long. But time went on and time went on. Health Canada stalled and delayed and made excuses. We endured a firebombing. We still don't know why. Never did really find out why that happened.
No one was hurt, I hope.
Yeah, somebody literally threw a firebomb through their doors.
Right after we closed up at 7 o'clock, and we had been broken into a few times prior to that, leading right up to that. And one of my staff, for the first time, was going to stay overnight in the RV. And around 2:30 in the morning, sure enough, somebody broke through the back door. They confronted each other, and the fellow ran away and then got on his skateboard and skated down the hill, yelling, "I'm going to firebomb your RV." And then the next night, after we closed up, we're 8 hours a day here, 7 days a week. We go to 7 o'clock at night. And at 7 o'clock, my staff closed up. By about 7:15, we were all in the shop here when, you know, there's a bright light outside. There's sirens, you know, coming real close. And we run outside, or one of us runs outside, and the whole RV was just up in blazes, you know, flames up past the telephone wires. And so we don't know what happened there. We don't know who that was or what that is. There's gangs in this neighborhood. They control the supply of a lot of these drugs that we're trying to help people get off of. Most of those groups, as far as I understand, in my brief interactions with the odd one, they're all good with us. They understand where our heart is, and they understand that some of these people shouldn't be doing what they're doing the way that they're doing it too. So, but we never did get to find out. So we endured that, and when that happened, we put up a tent, like as if we were at a 420 rally, you know, one of those rally tents, and put our tables out there. And even though it was cold as hell, we never missed a day. We've never missed a day in all the time that we've been here doing this, despite that happening. We had the police come and arrest myself and two of my colleagues about 2 years ago now.
Yeah, in
So no handcuffs were involved, actually, but we were charged with selling without a license. My two colleagues ended up taking a plea deal, which wasn't as good as what they thought it was, because it was supposed to be just nothing. But then they were supposed to write a letter explaining why what they did was wrong, and they didn't do that. And then they got to do 40 hours of community service with the Indigenous policing group that's down here, that's run by a good friend of mine who's on our board on the Serious Hope Society, one of our good friends who was instrumental in making the herb school happen back in the day. So they got
you got to hang out with your friends, mandated.
Yeah, they did. They did. And I won't take those deals. I refused those deals. We got to go through with this. I mean, we need to establish that it's something that the government needs to not only allow but support, is to have access to cannabis in the forms that we're providing it, but even better than that, because we're still encumbered by working out of an RV, working with unregulated suppliers in the underground, working with the threat of you know, what's going to happen, you know, in this court case here. You know, they're asking for 6 months in jail for my crimes, of all things. It's crazy as can be, even though they'll let me go if I write the letter. But I'm not writing no letter. I'm not pleading guilty or nothing, because, you know, it's wrong what they're doing on a major scale here. What we've exposed in this journey of ours, we're now 7 years into this project or program. We've still got the CSP running strong with 270 members. It's been capped at that for a long time, that get their 420 milligrams of their choice every 4 days. Everybody else that comes, if they don't have $1 or $2, we give them an edible, we give them a joint. Nobody gets turned away here. They got what they need to get through the next while until the next morning when we open again. We'll help them. There's people I help a lot more than that. You know, we try to keep that on the down low because everybody needs a lot more help, or so many people do, hundreds of people do. Meanwhile,
you see a lot of it where you are. I mean, Vancouver, Lower East Side, man, you're in the thick of that shit. I mean,
right on the front lines.
Cities are. That's where the homeless are. That's where the junkies are. That's where the problems are.
We are right on the front lines of this thing. You know, we don't just offer low barrier access with low cost and no cost cannabis to people here, but we offer our ears. We offer our advice. We offer, you know, clothing that comes in as donations that we have available for people when they need it. We provide warm meals. We provide so many other different things here that, you know, we've come to know these people. We know them by name. My staff knows so many people by name. We have new people coming here every day, but we have the regulars, and there's hundreds of them, and they're like family to us. We know their stories. We've heard them. They feel like we're family to them. They rely on us. When the police took my RV away, when they arrested me that day, they towed my RV. They said I'd never see it again. It was going to be used against me as the proceeds of crime and used in the commission of a crime. You know, we had our tents up every day. We had a big heater out there in, you know, underneath the canopy to try to keep warm because it was really cold. And so, because it was March, it was this time of year. 2 years ago that they came and surrounded us and charged me, and then, you know, they went away and we put up the tents. And so, you know, the government is way the hell out of line. It is cruel and unusual for them to even consider that we should just stop what we're doing. And that's what they wanted us to do, is just stop what you're doing until you get your license. That's what the police said we needed to do. That's what the government said. And we're like, we cannot stop what we are doing. And when the people thought that might be happening, when the RV got torched, we were a couple of weeks underneath the tent that time as well, because I didn't want to get a replacement RV right away, because I didn't know who did that. I didn't know what that was all about.
That's right.
You know,
again, like why invest that kind of money to have them do it again?
Well, it's it's all about the safety of my staff.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if this was some serious group that just didn't want us there anymore, and that's what they were trying to tell us, if I didn't get that message, and I didn't, because I put the tent up and I put the tables up.
That's right. You didn't get the message.
Hopefully, their next move would be to come and just nudge me. Just send somebody on a bicycle to come and stop me and say, hey, man, you didn't get the message? And then he could drive away, and then I would stop.
I mean, it's terrorism.
Never happened.
That's terrorism, you know.
It is.
To someone. And, you know, I mean, in Illinois, we have a program that's ran by a friend of the show named Josh White, and they've had very good success with using, you know, CBD, CBG, THC mixtures to get through, you know, the opiate withdrawals. And Illinois actually has a program called the Opiate Replacement Program, to where you can take your prescription into any dispensary and immediately you qualify for medical cannabis. But the caveat is you can buy the government's cannabis.
Yeah. And what are the prices?
We're falling short. Expensive, and with 38% tax on top of it, and a THC tax if it's over a certain, you know, so it's taxed. It's taxed.
Got a patchwork of taxes in Illinois, the way they've got it set up. There's a program.
Well, this is the thing, and I alluded in the early parts of the show about how we can't settle for this type of legalization that they're providing for us, because of all of those things. It produces such high barriers for the people that really need it the most, that can't afford it. The people that we should be caring about, the people that our governments on our behalf should be caring about, those are the ones that are left out of all of this. The marginalized people who can't get whatever it takes to qualify, or get disqualified for so many reasons because of their behaviors, you know. And
there's
because
access to every other medicine that you need. If you're a diabetic, there's avenues to access insulin and syringes. If you're like whatever it is that you've got, there's avenues for access. There's programs, there's companies, there's things you can do if you can't afford your meds. Somebody's going to fucking help you get your meds, right?
And then those people aren't stigmatized.
Yeah, and cannabis is the only one that not only doesn't have those avenues available, but it's also the only medicine that adheres to a tax. Like nothing else. You don't pay fucking tax on any other med, but cannabis, you're paying 2, sometimes 3 different fucking taxes on this thing before you can stick it in your pipe and smoke it.
Well, the whole key, Kim, is that they refuse to admit that it has medical value.
Yeah.
And that's the key.
First, that's what fucking makes me because I mean, Neil, we've had med here in Canada 22 motherfucking years. We've only had rec for 5. I mean, how is it still not a medicine when the med program has been here for over 2 decades?
You and I both know, and a lot of people know, that cannabis is not only medicine, it is the best medicine that nature has to offer. You only need to Google the endocannabinoid system to understand that this is an ancient medicinal herb that has been food for human beings and all other animals that are vertebrates on this planet for millennia. And that is why us and all of those vertebrates share what is an endogenous cannabis system, where we have receptor sites for the chemistry of the cannabinoids, because that's what our body has learned to manufacture as an overriding systems analysis group to make sure that everything's operating properly in the human body. The endocannabinoid system has the responsibility of maintaining the homeostasis of all of these other systems within our physical beings. It is so much medicine for us. I don't know if there could be any better medicine.
101. It's biology 101 for anybody. I mean,
well, except not taught like that amongst the populace,
Yeah, even your mood can be, your cannabinoid system can, be driven by, it's amazing what has been done. I think that these groups, is like the ones that you're doing and things of that sort. There's research there that should be documented and used as actual proof that you can, especially in opioid replacement therapy, things of that sort. You can change lives and save.
It's all there. The peer-reviewed studies, PubMed's full of it. It's all there, and so we're coming up to now, finally, after a couple of years, and after what do we got? I was in court 16 times to finally get a court date on this, and here we are. It's coming up in 3 weeks' time from today, and we get to go there. We won't. I don't know. We'll see how it all plays out. But this is mostly about the Crown trying to prove that we were selling without a license. And as much as I handed him my lawyer, probably the best case a lawyer could ever have to go forward with, where there's justification for breaking these laws and for these laws being set aside, I've also given the Crown probably the best case they've ever had of somebody obviously selling without a license. So we'll see where this all goes. And we want it to go to the courts in July for the actual hearing. This is the preliminary hearing. But we're planning on demonstrating the medicinal value of cannabis once and for all. Like, it's a no-brainer. There's nothing to refute its medicinal value. And everywhere you turn where they say it has this negative effect, well, that negative effect is also a positive effect for people that are suffering from other sorts of things. It can be used as medicine in such a huge variety of ways, and has been, and it is documented. And it's time that the courts really established this fact and stop the federal government from their stance, including today at Health Canada, where they don't recognize the medicinal value of cannabis, even though thousands of doctors are prescribing it for their clients who are quite happy with the results that they're getting. So that's part of our court case, is to establish the medicinal value of cannabis once and for all here. We're really hoping we can do that. And another one is the Cannabis Act. The Cannabis Act has to go.
Yay!
You know, we don't want it amended. There's no way to amend it to satisfy this. It's just completely wrong.
Yeah.
Remind me of what that is again, real quick.
Okay, that's our legalization act. They call it the Cannabis Act of Canada, and that's the rules of legalization as the government sees it laid out. So it replaced what we had previously with prohibition.
Control drugs and substances was what it replaced, but it didn't change anything.
No,
it really didn't change anything. And each time that the courts here at the Supreme Court level have demanded that the government provide reasonable access to patients, the government twists a bunch of words around, but doesn't really change anything. And so the Cannabis Act, it has its stated goals of making sure that Canadians are provided with a regulated source of cannabis, and so that they stop using the unregulated source of cannabis for their own health, basically. Right. And the other stated goal is to try to diminish the amount of illegal activity that has evolved around the cannabis trade. But what we're going to put to the courts is that the biggest barriers to attaining those goals is the Cannabis Act itself.
Absolutely it is.
It provides within itself all of these barriers, all of these restrictions, all these fees and taxes that have to be paid, and minimizes the amount of profit that can be made by the little guy producers all the way through, while the government reaps in so much money. And in the end, the price to the consumers is out of reach for the people that really need it. I mean, if you're really needing it, you need good quality cannabis. You don't need to go in and buy the $5 cannabis at the government store, because that's the shitty stuff.
That's right.
Who wants the shitty stuff? Not even just a regular consumer wants the shitty stuff. If you've got enough money in your pocket and there's the $5, the $10, and the $15 options for cannabis, man, you want that $15 option, because it's just the way it is. Yeah. But sick people, they have to have that. So it's out of reach for them. So that's why this whole thing is wrong. And that's why the Cannabis Act is harming the vulnerable people in our society. It's really an attack on the disabled people of our country here and all around. Yeah. But the model itself, as I mentioned, maintains the apparatus of prohibition. So it keeps all of those people rolling in the lucrative tax dollars that they're paid to do what they've been doing for 100 years here.
The fine structure. Right. Fees and fines.
Yeah, but it's bigger than that.
You're paying, and you got to pay to make sure that you stay on that line. You got to pay your fee to play, and now you're playing. They're watching every motherfucking move you make. And if you do something maybe a little bit wrong, you've pissed somebody off. There's a fine attached to that.
There's legal cannabis and there's illegal cannabis.
Yes.
And it's really debatable which one is safer than the other. And actually, both of them are probably safe on that respect. But it's a criminal hypocrisy that's going on here. It's so hypocritical. It's full of lies. It has no basis in any justification whatsoever. And so the courts hopefully will demand some justification, although we seldom get it because they have their double-speak lawyers, a dozen of them, all paid for by taxpayers. They're going to spend $1 million or more on my case. I've got disclosure about that thick. It has 0 victims mentioned throughout all of it, but a whole lot of police work that we're all paying for that went into surveilling us and sending in undercovers. They never talked to me.
This big criminal, Neil,
Well, but I thought the big criminals got brought in and put under the bright lights and asked a bunch of, pointed questions. They never talked to me at all. They never asked me. I'd have told them right outright. In fact, I do this show on Pot TV every week. I'm in my 5th year. We're in the last half of the 5th year now of the THC show. Yep. And I tell them there every week, we're providing low cost and no cost cannabis.
We're here.
So, not only did I tell City Council and the VPD what we were doing, but I also put big signs up all over my truck every time I went there, my SUV. Yeah. I had big signs made up by a nice graphics guy who made my sign there for me. And I didn't try to hide nothing. That's one of my biggest defenses. I've never tried to hide anything here. I want help. I've written letters and asked for help from all these different ministries, from the ministers of health, mental health and addiction, and the health ministers, and the premier of the province, and all these people. And none of them ever respond back to me, because none of them want to have any sort of a paper trail or digital trail that will show that they even acknowledge that I exist and that we're doing what we're doing here.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So, we're going to be as loud as we can about it. We're going to have this court case. We'll be doing, updates from the courthouse steps every time that we're there. And it's a story about corruption. This is a story about how corrupt is Canada. Is it going to really prevent these poor, unfortunate people that have just suffered all these traumas, the abused children that have become adults in our society, that were prey to doctor prescriptions of opioids that got them addicted in the first place? And now we're gonna deny them this natural, easy to produce herb, that can help them get off that shit and then help them in their lives, because why? Because money? They
can't afford it.
Because
pay to play.
Yeah, I mean, wow. This is not the legalization we were fighting for. We wanted tax and regulate, but that was wrong too. There's no justification for taxing a product that offsets the use of harmful things in our society, that benefits our society. That should be encouraged by government.
The program was supposed to remain exempt from the taxes. If they wanted to tax the fucking rec market, I really didn't give a shit about that, because I've always encouraged everybody to go for your med patient papers. Because as far as I'm concerned, if you're using cannabis and you're gravitating towards cannabis, then you are a fucking patient.
We are all patients
for a reason. Right?
We are all patients, Kim. Whether you got your papers, whether you can get your papers, whether you lost your papers, whether you got papers, whether you could get them or not, we are all patients.
Absolutely. 100%.
I'll tell you, I don't think there's anybody that's over 40 years of age that won't tell you about something that's going on with them that causes discomfort and pain in their life. Right. We've all suffered traumas. We're living in a traumatic world, for flip's sakes. I mean, just look at who's running for the U.S. presidency. And I'm not talking any one individual. I'm talking two individuals. I don't see a winner in the bunch anywhere, really. I'm not paying that close attention either. But anyway, we live in a traumatic world. These people are going to war. These people are committing us to atrocities and to who knows what down the road. And the scrutinization that's coming, the surveillance that's coming to the generation to come is incredible.
Right here in Canada. It's fucking insane. I don't recognize my country anymore on a political scale. It's absolutely nuts. And cannabis hasn't escaped that. They've grabbed hold of cannabis as well right here. And I'm seeing it happen with my friends south of the border as legalization takes place in state by state areas down there. And then even within states, by city, we're seeing the corporatization takeover of this plant, go from medicinal. And it's baffling to me how many people that you and I have stood side by side with over the last, 20, 30, 40 fucking years. And I watch them work and play in the legal industry, and they're skipping and jumping, and life is fucking good. And I'm looking at them going, what the fuck are you doing?
What pill did you swallow?
What happened there?
They seem to have just decided, well, this is it. Let's embrace it, and we can maybe make some money, and we get to grow cannabis because we all love growing cannabis.
I'm just like, what?
And we're helping people get cannabis, so we all love helping people get cannabis. So, it must be all good. People do what's in their best interest, and if it's not in your interest, you're not making money on it. Sometimes you're not even going to think about it, even though, hey, man, this is really wrong. But cops have to be able to do that. Doctors have to be able to do that. Lawyers have to be able to do that. They don't want to think about how wrong something is. They got money to make. They're told to do a job. They're going to arrest that young man and give him a criminal record because he was dabbling in some herbal flowers that, thought might give him some happy feelings, get him high or something. And that must be a crime of some sort because the government says so. And the courts say so. because the courts say, well, the majority of people, they voted in this government, and now the government's just doing what the majority of people want. Well, that's a bunch of bullshit. The majority of people never vote at all. And so the majority of people who do vote, whether it's rigged or not, who knows, but they vote in a particular government that says they're going to do a bunch of things. But everybody, all of us in society get that, the biggest definition of a liar is a politician.
Yeah, and that it doesn't matter what country you're in for that.
Exactly. They learn to figure out what you want, because normally you're telling them, right there in front of them, and they'll speak out of that one side of their face there, and they'll tell you exactly what you want to hear. and then they got this other group over here that want the opposite of what these people want. Now they're going to talk out of that side of the face. They're going to tell them exactly what they want. Then what are they going to do? It doesn't fucking matter what either one of those groups want them to do, unless they're paying them money, because there's a big group that's paying them a bunch of money, or that's going to look after them once they're not in politics anymore, or they're maybe just not going to kill their family off if they don't do what they're told. I don't know what their threats or bribes are, but they're selling us out every chance they get. Doesn't matter what any of the groups say, that they or get told that they're going to get. If it doesn't fit the agenda of the ruling elite on this planet, then they don't get it. So, politics is a sham. It takes years and years to get anywhere close to anything. And if you ever did get close, there'd be some sort of a staged event to distract everybody and scare the hell out of everybody and send us into our homes to isolate and listen to the state news or something. We're up against really powerful, sophisticated people here. And all we want is for our sick people and our poor people and our people that are stuck in addiction, our poor family members who got put on these drugs because that's what the doctors put them on in the first place. And now, there they are out on the street trying to buy it off street dealers because the doctors have been told to cut these people off now, and they don't get cut off properly. And, they still got all the underlying conditions going on that they were addressing, at least by being zombied out. So, it's still a horrible upside down, backwards, inside out world here, and we're not done. So I hope we can still garner a whole bunch of good souls like yourselves to keep on going and keep on telling the truth here until we get it done. Because it's, all logic and reason should mean that eventually our sovereignty as individual human beings should come through to some degree and be protected by these governments that we're paying to do that. And somehow we got to figure out how to force them to do that, so that you're not a criminal unless you're harming somebody with intent and serious damage. And then you have the right to do or not do whatever you want to do unless you're harming somebody else. In which case, society and everybody has an obligation and a responsibility to try to stop you from harming other people. But short of that, you be who you want to be. You live how you want to live, and then let's have all the information available to people. If there's dangerous plants out there, well, let's make that well known. Nobody's going and chewing on most of the poisonous plants out there. You don't have to make them illegal to stop that from happening.
You don't need to make it illegal.
Don't have to make it illegal.
That's right. So, that's right. I mean, there's a simple way around this. And, I tell this to all of my American friends, do not follow the path that Canada has taken for legalization. To me, it's a very simple out. You remove it from the CDSA. So it is no longer an illegal substance. It's not on the controlled drugs and substances list. It's innocuous. It's a fucking tomato. Now, if you want your tax, I understand you want your tax. You can tax and regulate it without it being on the CDSA, just like they do with alcohol. It's taxed, it's regulated. It is not on the CDSA. You can add in your quality control, and you can allow home growers and farmers by just mandating testing. You can mandate fucking testing to make sure the product is safe. Now you've got your tax money and nobody's going to fucking jail.
And you can do that in the marketplace as well, where people would choose for themselves. And those people that might be compromised because of bad immune systems or disease or whatever, they would know which places to go to that do the proper testing, that look after their interests and all the rest of that. And all of that would be transparent and open and all the rest of it. But, in reality, cannabis is just a plant. But it's not an ordinary plant. It's a very, very valuable plant. And it's also an extremely easy plant to grow Although I don't want to offend the growers out there who have had great difficulty coming up with how to properly grow cannabis to the connoisseur level indoors and with all that stuff going on. But you can also grow cannabis to scale. You can grow it in hybrid greenhouses. You can grow it outdoors. You can grow cannabis. I say it's easy to grow because it really grows a lot. It yields more biomass, usable medicine and biomass than any other crop that a farmer would grow. More per cubic meter, and it can really be maxed out as far as what a farmer would be able to produce. And a farmer should be able to produce it and bring it to the marketplace just like he brings an ear of corn or some other type of spice or whatever, without all this government oversight and regulation boosting up the price and restricting the access. Yeah. What would you pay for a pound of the very best other thing that a farmer would grow? For the best grapes, cherries, strawberries, blueberries, fruits, vegetables, medicinal herbs. Would you pay $10 a pound? Most people can't pay that. Most people can't bring their family any fruit if it's $10 a pound. It has to be $5.99 at this point in time, basically. You see the odd thing since the pandemic at $10 a pound of some sort of exotic something or other fruit or vegetable, but man, that's a lot of money. That's only for the rich people. That's a treat. $10 a pound. But cannabis, for whatever reason, well, because of government corruption, and because the public is willing to bear these prices, is way the hell up there. Like at $10 a gram, that's $4,540 for a pound.
I know.
Holy shit.
I know.
So I don't care if people want to pay $10. I don't care if they want to pay $30 a gram. I don't care if stores want to have $30 a gram cannabis. I don't care that some growers deserve to have a whole bunch of money for how well they grow cannabis and how much money they put into that product to bring it to market. I don't care. That's all fine. But leave the marketplace open to other people who want to just provide it at a lower cost, or at a lower cost to their producing it as well as a lower cost to the public. It's not a big threat. There's still lots of money there for the big boys to make big money with their luxury stores, but that's where you tax cannabis. That's where you put a tax on cannabis. You want to buy the super expensive stuff for rich people. You're a rich person. Well, give back to some of the poor people as well. So we can subsidize low cost and no cost cannabis for the other segments of society that can't afford it. And that's a program that would make some sense. But what they're doing here, this attempted hostile takeover of the cannabis industry that kicks the very people that the whole movement has been about since the beginning under the bus, this is insane and disgusting. And I'm ashamed that our government is allowing these corporate interests to dictate to them how they govern this country with respect to cannabis policy and other drug policies and some other policies. We are far more corrupt than what we thought we were. That's really sad to see, but it needs to be shown. It needs to be exposed. Hopefully we can do that in the court case coming up here. And, hopefully you will join the fight, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. This is important. This is about the generations to come. This is about freedom at its very core. And we need everybody. We don't really have an opportunity for too many passengers anymore. I mean, yes, live your life, raise your family, focus on those things that are important to you, but take some time out to help make the world a better place.
100%.
Do something. If nobody can do everything, but if everybody did something, then we are a force. We are millions. We are multitude, and we need everybody to contribute. We are not free here. That's important to understand. We need to be free. The next generations need to be free. With the availability of sophisticated surveillance and scrutiny, we need to have foundations of laws and governance that protect the individuals in our society from the corporate elite that will oppress and take what they can, monopolize, and the rest of it every chance they get. It's what business does. You can't really blame them. They're trying to maximize their profits for their shareholders. But it needs to be curtailed. It needs to be regulated in ways that make sense for people, not for those businesses. And so that's what's going on. Our governments, if they weren't from the very beginning, have certainly been infiltrated and co-opted by these corporate elite forces that have been ruling the world by kingdoms and empires for a long time. And they're still amongst us, and they still think they own us. and we are not free, and we deserve to be free. And if we can't be free in our lifetimes, let's do what we can for the generations to come, because this is really important, or we're going to be a lockdown slave state of consumers and producers for major rich people. Yeah.
Hey, Steve-O, you imagine them trying to take this guy's voice box away?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't want it.
No, I don't think so. I
might lose it anyway, but we'll see what happens. So far, so good. I might even be able to squeak out an cannabis at 420. We're going to have a multi-headed 420 this year because the mayor is an asshole, and he shut down or tried to shut down Cannabis Day in a brutal fashion. And I'm sure he's got similar plans for whatever's happening for 420. So we'll see if he can figure out what's happening for 420. He'll figure out that it's happening all over the city in several different venues, and let's see what he can do. And whatever he does, he's going to expose himself for his biases and his prejudices as he guzzles alcohol at family events. This is one asshole of a mayor, worst that we've ever had in Vancouver, and our community is under attack by this guy. So we've got lots to protest, and we're going to be doing it, whether you hear much or not. There's not going to be a lot of promotion to be heard about what's going on in Vancouver for 420, but trust me, there's a bunch of stuff going on in Vancouver for 420.
Well, I got news for you. Guess what?
You knew anyway.
I'm coming.
Nice. Well, make sure you check in here. Make sure you come on my show. I'd love to have you. I know it's a nasty sort of area to be coming down to, but there's all sorts of... I'm coming to visit you. I'm gonna come and give you a big fucking hug, man. Beautiful.
I'm gonna be spending 5 days, I think, in Vancouver and doing a bit of a tour.
And we'll have a microphone for you if you're interested in doing that. If you've ever been in front of a microphone before.
I'm sure we're going to have some great on-location coverage there, and I can't wait to see how that happens. By the way, I want to say, I've been listening to you. I've been kind of mesmerized. If you don't mind me comparing you to like one of these speeches that are inspiring from one of like a famous general, like General McRaven, the make your bed in the morning speech type of thing. You are extremely inspiring. I want to wish you all the luck with your health, sir. I want to wish you even more luck in court, and with all the respect in the world, I just want to say, get out there and give them hell, Neil.
And wish me luck with the Vancouver Canucks, who are still first in the West for about 70 days now. Having a dream year. I've been a hockey fan all my life. It's a big distraction that keeps me going. You need balance in your life, and so disappointed for all these 50-some years that I've been a Canuck fan. I fell off the wagon in 2010. I still don't believe they're going to win the Stanley Cup in my lifetime, if ever. And I'll believe it when I see it. But if it happens, and it could happen, then I'll be crying like a schoolgirl. And they're having the best year ever. It's so much fun to watch. And without the expectation of the cup, maybe it's even more fun. I don't know. But I'm not jumping off a bridge if they don't win it. I don't think they can win it. It's too hard a trophy to win. But we're having some fun this year, so that's really helping me as well. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you for having me on your show again. It's been a pleasure to see you over the years, continue to pound the message out and have all the right people on. And, this is history being made in the present that will be looked back on in the future and to see how we went. And I'm hoping, that we go in the right direction and that we're just pioneers in paving the way for what is proper legalization of just a natural plant in God's environment here. It's such a blasphemy that human beings think that they can tell other human beings whether or not they can access a plant or not. Even if that plant was dangerous and poisonous and you know it, and that person that has it and wants to take it doesn't know that, there's only so much you can do to convince that person not to consume that plant if they're hell-bent on thinking that this is going to help them. Only so much you can do. You don't wrestle them to the ground and fight them over the plant. You don't put them into handcuffs or tie them up and put them into a room for the rest of their lives. You don't shoot them in the head because they might hurt themselves with this plant that you think is dangerous and they think isn't. It's none of your business, whoever you are. Maybe if you're a parent and it's a child, hell yeah, it's your business. Don't shoot them in the head. But for adults, to have one adult tell another adult, you can't access this natural plant, even though you believe it's going to help you, I'm telling you it's more dangerous than you can handle, and I'm going to hurt you bad if you decide to hurt yourself with that plant, is some of the most ludicrous mind twists that we've ever been involved with. I don't know how they've hypnotized the whole country and world to believe that this is somehow normal, but it ain't normal at all. And maybe that's why they want to prohibit access to psychedelics, because maybe the psychedelics are a good path for people to rewrite their neurons and recognize what freedom is, recognize what the role of government is really supposed to be for free citizens in a democratic society, what the limits should be on those governments and all that kind of stuff. And so I just want to end by congratulating Dana Larson for his win yesterday in the Board of Variance hearing in the city of Vancouver, who has raised above all other cities in the world to issue or not issue, but unsuspend, whatever the word is, when they suspend a license, they remove the suspension on his mushroom dispensary with full knowledge that he's selling mushrooms and DMT and peyote and other psychedelic substances, because hopefully this is the future, that we do get to at least have access for those who want them with some sort of guidance, but not over-regulation, but allowing access of these natural plants and cacti that are all a part of our environment, that no other one human being should ever deny any other human being at least the option of finding out for themselves, even if they're being foolish. So,
yeah, 100%.
Good on Dana.
Congratulations to Dana on that milestone for sure.
It is.
You know, it is a huge milestone forward in the world of psychedelics.
For sure.
Which I am a big fan of and an advocate for, and also do 2 other podcasts in the world of psychedelics here on this network. So yeah, huge win for Dana. Good stuff there. You know, largely with the decision in BC to decriminalize most of these drugs. That went a long way to his win, with that already being on the books. They really didn't have a chance. They may not have a place to give him a license, but they couldn't deny him his right to sale because they deregulated these substances within the city of Vancouver already. So how can you stop somebody from selling a deregulated product? Makes sense to me, and huge win for the city of Vancouver and for Dana Larson and for people in the world of psychedelic medicine. Thank you so much, Neil, for joining us. In closing, I'd like to thank Neil Magnuson in the house from the Cannabis Substitution Program there in BC and Vancouver. Get in touch with Neil. Then keep in touch with Neil about his upcoming court case. Thank you for joining us here tonight. Peace, News, and Views created for and aired on the NOK network. And to my awesome joint host, Siir SteveO. I'm going to give you a minute to say goodnight, SteveO.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in tonight. And it was wonderful meeting you, Neil.
You as well. Thank you guys so much.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. And we'll be back again next week with another very special guest. I took your line.
That's okay. We'll
Thanks,
see you next
everybody.
week.
Peace.
Peace.
Let's all go into pot, whether we like it or not. Best I can tell, the world's gone to hell, and we're sure gonna miss it a lot. All the whiskey in Lynchburg, Tennessee just couldn't fill that spot. I got $100 bill, man, you can keep your pills, man. It's all going to pot. It's all going to pot, whether we like it or not. Best I can tell, the world's gone to hell, and we're sure gonna miss it a lot. All the whiskey in Lynchburg, Tennessee just couldn't fill the spot. I got $100 bill, man, you can keep your bills, man. It's all going to pot. I got $100 bill, man, you can keep your pills, man. It's all